All right, we're here. We made it. Adding fractions with unlike denominators. We're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink into this one. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great. It's going to be grand. And it's going to be glorious. Let's dive in with some examples. So we're gonna dive right into the deep end with example one, way so far deep. And we are going to do an example that is 2/7 plus 8. I was going to do something dumb, but then I decided I wouldn't do something all that dumb. Let's do something a little less dumb and say 8/10. We'll do one that's not too far in the deep end. Okay, so we can't do that. If you didn't already know, here is your news for the day. You cannot add fractions if they don't have the same denominator. It's not possible, right? So what we need to do first is we need to get them to have a common denominator. Now, we did that already. We practiced that in this one. Now, we practiced that before. Remember, we found the least common denominator, least common multiple, all of those things. So we're going to do the same thing here. The only difference between this and that is we've added this little plus sign in the middle, and we may have to reduce it and or convert it to a mixed number. So let's dive in and take a look at it. So what are we're going to find the LCM, the LCD screen for 7 and 10. What are the multiples of 7? Well, it is 7, 14, 21, etc., 70. Saving us some time and trouble. We could skip count all the way up there and all that, but I think we're going to save ourselves some time and trouble because I don't really think it's going to find anything in between there at the one and the other. If you didn't see that right away, that's totally fine. You can do that. You can walk it on down there on examples. So 10, 20, 30, skip a few, 70, right? And so we got to remember, what is 7 times what equals 70? And we got to figure out 10 times what equals 70, right? So we're going to put in the box, we're going to put a 10 here because 7 times 10 is 70 and the other way around there. So now that we find what we're multiplying to, remember how we did what we did next. What we did next was we multiply the top and bottom over here for the 7 times this one. 10 over 10. And then this one, we're going to do it the other way around and do 7 times over 7. So 2 times 10 is, of course, 20. 7 times 10 is 70. Oops. Don't forget to bring down our plus. 7 times 8 is 56. 10 times 7 is 70. So now we've got like denominators. So how do we add fractions with like denominators? We go way back to the beginning of this unit and we just add the numerator. So 20 plus 56 is 76 over 70. Now, at this point in our math career, there's going to be some times later, once we get to like Algebra 1 and some of those things, that we like improper fractions. But for right now, we don't really like improper fractions. But we can also, now you can either reduce now or you can reduce later. So let's do a reduce now step on this one because both of these are divisible by 2, right? They're both even, right? So we can definitely divide by 2. So we're going to divide the top and bottom by 2. 76 divided by 2 is 38. 38. And 70 divided by 2 is 35. Now, we don't want this to be an improper fraction, so let's convert it. We did that in our last lesson. We're going to do 35 on the porch, 38 in the house, 1. This one's fairly straightforward. This one you could do in your head, but avoid the temptation for now until we've practiced some more, okay? What is 38 minus 35? It's 3, so our final answer is 1 and 3/35. Okay, let's do another example. This is not what we're doing right now. I hope you're seeing that this isn't all that hard. It's just several steps. It's not that it's hard. It's just a little bit longer than a lot of problems that we're used to dealing with. Okay, so let's do a second example. Let's do 26 over, how about 15 minus, addition, subtraction the same. Remember, we're sneaking in our integer rules, minus 5/13. Now, we've got a couple of improper fractions, so you could do this one of two different ways, and I'm going to show it if I can fit it on here. I'm going to show this problem done twice in two different ways. So you could, first of all, we know we need to get a common denominator, so we should probably start there, right? So what do we have to multiply times 5 to make it a 15? 5 times 3 is 15. So let's just multiply this to times a 3/3. How's that sound? Great, good, wonderful. So this would turn into either way. Let me erase this before I do this twice, because either way, our first step is going to be this 26/15 minus 3 times 13 would be 39/15. We've got a minus in the middle. What do we got to do with that? Well, we've got to ka-chink it, right? Which is to remind us that this is positive, this is negative. So what are we going to do? We're going to subtract and keep the sign of the bigger number, right? So the bigger number is 39. So we know that our answer is going to be negative. I'm not going to do this one two ways. I changed my mind. LOL, JK. It's okay. No big deal, right? So 39, we're going to kind of scratch paper zone this and do 39 minus 26. You could probably do that one in your head, but just to keep it all straight and nice and neat and organized, it's sometimes easier to do things backwards and get confused. And so I really, especially if I'm making a key or whatever, I still use scratch paper for problems like this, and or check myself using a calculator or whatever else, just to make our lives easier, and we'll make less mistakes that way. So 9 minus 6 is 3. 3 minus 2 is 1. So our answer is negative 13/15. Let's do one more example. I think sounds quite reasonable to me. So let's do example number 3. This one, we're going to kind of mix up some stuff. And this one's going to be the biggest and wildest example we're gonna do. So let's do 5 and 5/8 minus, actually, why not? Let's make it negative 5 and 5/8 minus negative 18/3. Okay, we got all kinds of puzzle pieces here. There are several different ways to do this particular problem, okay? So what we're going to do, now you could do this one of two different ways. In fact, this one I think we really will do two different times. Before I forget, let me copy this here. That way I can just paste it onto a new slide. So the first way we're going to deal with this is we're going to convert this mixed number into an improper fraction first. We're also going, since we've got a negative in the middle, before we even forget, we're going to ka-chink that. Oops. Would help if I had the right tool. Ka-chink that. Okay. And then we're also going to convert this to a improper fraction. So we're going to multiply and then add, right? Putting our little intermediate bit up here. 5 times 8 is 40. Plus 5 is 45. We're going to make sure we bring down the negative. And the more we do with negatives, the more we're going to realize that just forgetting to bring down negatives is going to be a major way that we make mistakes. So this turned into positive, right? So we're going to go ahead and do that. And then we've got 18/3. Now we need these to be common denominators, right? So we're going to convert these into something else. So we need to find the least common denominator between 8. 8, its factors are 8, 16, 24. I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit. I'm going to show you a cheat. By this point, we've practiced finding least common denominator, least common multiple, all that jazz repeatedly. I went ahead and did the 8 on first on purpose. Does 3 go into 8? Yes or no? No, it doesn't, because 3 times 1 is 3, and 3 times 2 is 6, and 3 times 3 is 9. We've already passed 8. Doesn't work. Does 3 go into 16? Yes or no? No, because 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 5 is 15, which is close, but clearly that's not going to work. 3 times 6 is 18. It skips it. It doesn't work. This is 8 times 3, right? It does work, obviously, right? Because 3 goes into 3. So the least common denominator for both of these, least common multiple, is 24. Right? So 8 times what equals 24? 3 times what equals 24? In here, we're going to put a 3 and an 8. Right? And then we're going to bring that guy over here and do times 3 on this one and do times 8 on this one. Okay, so 3 times 45. We need a little bit of a scratch paper zone, I think. What do you guys think? I'd say that seems very like a good idea. Let's kind of scratch paper zone 45 times 3. 5 times 3 is 15. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 1 is 13. So this turns into negative 135 over 8 times 3 is 24. I got lost halfway through in my brain, but I came back. Welcome back, me. 8 times 18, I think we should probably scratch paper that guy as well. 18 times 8. 8 times 8 is 64. 8 times 1 is 8. Plus 6 is 14. So this turns into plus 144 24ths. Are the signs the same or different? This one's negative. That one's positive. We're going to subtract and keep the sign. I'm going to... Actually, you know what I'm going to do? Actually, a probably even better idea. That way I'm trying to practice what I preach as much as possible by not erasing my scratch paper work. It's sometimes hard because I only have a limited amount of screen, and so trying to balance the messy with the showing y'all how to do things, all those words. So 144 minus 135. Can't do that. We got to borrow. This turns into a 3, and we put a 1 right there. What is 14 minus 5? It is 9, and then this is 0, and that's 0, so its answer is 9. Now, is it a positive 9 24ths as our answer, or Is it a negative 9/24? Well, the bigger one is 144. It was positive, so it's positive 9/24. Now, time out, because 9 and 24 are both divisible by 3, so we got to finish this out by dividing or by reducing this fraction by a 3. Okay, so 9 divided by 3 is 3, and 24 divided by 3 is 8. So 3/8 is the answer. So that's one way. And so to recap, what we did was we first of all got our mixed number and turned it into an improper fraction. And then we got a common denominator. And then we did the addition, which turned into subtraction, right? And then we reduced it on down. So let's look at, this is going to be our last example. It's going to be the same example, but doing it a different way. Okay, so we're going to paste that back in there and move it back up here. And we're going to add a little 3a. Or how about b? We'll call the other one 3a. Right? 3a and 3b. So we could do it the way we did it. We could also notice a couple things. Actually, one of them we should have noticed on the last one. Would have made our life a lot easier, but I didn't notice. And so I'm going to pretend like I don't notice, and I'm going to actually do this one a third time as well. And because sometimes if you see something, it can save you time and trouble later. But before we do that, we're going to do it a different way. And that is, we're still going to ka-chink this, right? But instead of converting this to an improper fraction, we're going to convert this guy to a mixed number. So let's get a scratch paper zone on my screen and do 3 into 18. This is probably going to, if we do it this way, it's actually going to, well, I'm going to end up only doing this one more time, I realize, because I'm going to accidentally spoil the surprise right here. Yeah, so here we go. 3 goes into 1 0 times. 3 goes into 18 6 times, because 3 times 6 is 18. We get, 0. So it's just straight up 6. There we go. So this turns into negative 5 5/8 plus 6. Okay. Now, what we need to do now, and the other method that we're going to do is, instead of converting them both to improper fractions and then getting a common denominator at that point, what we're going to do is we're going to actually use the method called stacking. Okay, so this method, we're going to write the bigger number on top, so 6, and then minus 5 5/8. Now the trick to this, I think, as I'm looking at this, we may end up making it, we almost certainly, we'll see how we do in class and all those things. We may almost certainly look at an entire lesson practicing this one topic, because it's nice, but the borrowing step is a little bit tricky. So we don't have a fraction part, right? We don't have one. It doesn't exist there, right? So what we need to do is we need to have a fraction part in order to do this subtraction. So what we're going to do is we're going to borrow, just like we've always borrowed. Okay, so we're going to take away a 6. Or we're going to take away 1 off of the 6 and turn it into a 5. Now, here's the trick. We're taking 1 from this, and we got to give 1 to this. So we're going to give a 1, but we need a 1 with this denominator. So we need a 1 with an 8 in the denominator. So what would be a 1 with an 8 in the denominator? Well, that would be 8 over 8. Okay, so now we can subtract. So 8/8 minus 5/8 gives us 3/8. And then 5 minus 5 is 0. So we end up that way with 3/8 as well. Now, this took a lot less time. For the sake of time, though, where we are in this video, since we're hitting about 20 minutes, we are going to go ahead and call this done. I think we're going to end up making a part 2 to this video and look at specifically this topic, because I don't really think that's going to be enough examples. So I will see you then. Hope this one's been helpful. We'll see you in the next lesson. Bye-bye.